Welcome to Warblog. Today we're looking at this Cazombo game. I've done two of these. Now I'm not going to sort of go back to the home page because I did this and I got through 5 minutes saying I was not happy with this. I just felt that there was too much, and then I started to read the thing again, and it's talking about 4,600 men, which would be about 25 companies. And then I started to count these because I sort of do these things, on the fly. I've got, I've got to be efficient about how I do things and do them quickly. And I thought, no, I'm not going to just leave it like that because I don't like the look of it. So I've changed it to be a little more towards the 25 companies, but slightly more because I'm not including the engineers and artilleries, but I've whittled everything down, probably by about half. So let's just refresh it and see what it looks like. Well, I'm not actually going to do it like that. I'm going to do it like this because I want to be able to compare. So as I say, I've done two of them and they're both in the sort of same league, so to speak. So this is what it looks like now. So this is what it was like before. This is what it looks like now. And I'm a little happier with that. This is sort of, there's just something so wrong about that it's irking me. It seems as though, there isn't a place for the dingoes to crap for want of opposing forces. But, I cut a lot of things down by halves, so you can see all this motorized is now halved. The thing is, at the same time, you've got to ask yourself, what sort of quality game? I've saved the spreadsheet for this, because I'm still a bit reluctant to sort of say, well, I don't like it, because it's still a game. But I think the onus of this was more a sort of, even this is probably a bit too much. But I've made the decision that there was a front line sort of, because they came from here, there was a front line here, they come through here, but really they take a rail route up to here and then come down here, and the UNITA forces actually just leave, so it's not a real battle, but we're sort of reflecting on it as though it could have been a battle. I mean, they didn't have to retreat from Cazombo, they could have held and fought at any place. So I think this is probably, the thing is, I have a pathological disorder in the sense that I collect things, and I don't like throwing things away. I'm a hoarder, which is one of the reasons why I would never really delete a game. There's something in here that I'm not so great, and I just can't bring myself to delete them, and I really can't bring myself to delete this one. I've got the spreadsheet, and I just think, well, which one's better? I just, so I'm going to have to sort of go with this. This is the new version, and even this might be too much, but so I'm just going to play it. But before I do that, because I did this before, I got this from a Times newspaper thing. I just typed in UNITA between January 84 and December 85, and this is exactly the sort of thing, I've spoken about this before, but this is exactly the sort of thing that I remember about war reports from when I was younger, and this would have been when I was young. I don't remember this, but the little map like that is, is enough to set the imagination racing. And obviously, major battle, Mavinga. And the Angolan Civil War has always been a real fascination for me, but the thing is, there's no book on it. There is really no book on it. I've got a book in front of me called here, actually, I use as a mouse mat because it's not very good. I hinted at someone, I said, listen, I really like that book. If you see a second-hand one, because I figured that, because I know someone in South Africa, and I figured that second-hand bookshops would be full of them, and they actually sent it to me as a Christmas present, and it's not very good, but it's called South African Border War, 1966 to 1989. It's got lots of nice pictures in it, but there's just nothing like this. There's no such thing as a collection of little maps like this, which is what I'm trying to do here. So this is the battle we're doing here, and the other one is here. But obviously, this one is from Menongu through to Mavinga, which was an airstrip, basically. But it goes through Kutakanalave, and that is a really important place. You know, so much so that we've got Operation Modular, and I still haven't got to the bottom of this. And it's still one of the crappiest scenarios I've got. So there's Cute Canave, and here's all the units. And it was a massive battle. And even this, I'm just not happy with this. But I'm happier with this approach. So we've only got 3 battles. Oh, we've got the battle that's coming. We've got the raid on Kafuno, which I got from the Times as well. But the battle from Mavinga is actually, you know, is a really nice map, I think. And you've got Menongu, you've got Cute, Kuanalave, and Mavinga down here. So you've got to go all the way down here. And this bridge is quite important because this is what they blew up with their special forces before. And you know, but 3 years later, this became famous. But this is a big battle, and I've not read anything about it anywhere. So I'm really trying to get to the bottom of all of this, but I'm not going to read the whole thing out here, but it is actually quite interesting reading. And it says many of the government units seem to have been taken by surprise, possibly suggesting the suddenness of an airstrike. In one place, a truck and an armoured personnel carrier had been hit. A soldier with his head half blown away was still sitting in the back of the truck. 3 other rotting corpses lay entwined beneath a haze of flies on the sand nearby, and the bodies of 2 other soldiers lay further away as if they had been cut down while running for cover. The stench of death was still present in many places as vultures circled overhead. This was the Times reporting in 1985, and I mean, you know, it just was a description of what the guy saw. But I don't think you could get away with that these days. It would be sort of, you know, many of the government units, which included women, seem to have been taken completely by surprise, possibly by fake news. Oh, I don't know how they would write this stuff these days, but it would be crap. Well, this is just, you know, observation. And it's talking about the South African intervention. It's interesting, though. With or without direct South African intervention, it is fair to say that the further Luanda's ponderous armoured columns advanced through the clogging bush sand, the more exposed they became at the end of their tenuous supply line, whereas UNITA's more lightly armoured infantry were fighting on home ground. We saw little evidence of government air activity, though Dr. Savimbi said that as late as October the 5th, MiG-21s had made daily bombing runs aimed at Mavinga airstrip, although it showed no signs of damage. Once we heard the distant crump of what sounded like mortar fire from the north of the Lomba River. It's just interesting. Anyway, so I'm going to actually play the lightened version. Now, the key thing here, we've got lots of air power, and the report does talk about downed MI 25s, which is what we've got here. I suppose I'll get the drawing tool out just briefly. So this is the route they take, but you could probably just as well do that. Now, remember, you need to give up Cazombo and retreat south to Mavinga. So I want to clear the road because I'm gonna focus essentially on this route. In the first instance, and then go this way. So what have we got here? Well, that's convenient. We've got lots of engineers, rockets. So we've got an army of spearhead of mechanised and motorised, and a lot of motorised and mechanised there. I'm really not sure I need much air power on this. So there's two lots of infantry there. They're going to be a problem, but not much of a problem really. We're just going to knock everything back. Right, let's put 5 helicopters on this, just to see what happens. No air defence. So we've already routed some engineers. Right, so now let's move in. Let's use let's use 2 lots of artillery. Right, so let's just move in with this mechanised eliminated. Right. Now hopefully we should just go straight through these rockets. Yep. Okay, let's put 5 air power onto this stack because it is a big one. Three, 4.2, whatever artillery we can get on it. And it looks like all of it, so it's still there, but this artillery is hitting home. 6.4, 10.9. Okay. Now we've got engineers. They've lost their engineers. I want to punch this guy back. He's out of movement. Let's use 2 of these. 4-1 the DE. Right. We do the same thing here. But I'm going to add the rest of my air power on this because I don't want that 4-1 odd coming back. I know it's expensive, but I just want to make sure I've taken the edge off of their defence. And this should clear the road. Still a 4-1. So we've now got a nice clear road. How far can we get these trucks? Okay, well we can't really do much with that. Okay. Okay, well that's interesting. So we've really blasted a line through that road. Now what's UNITA going to do? Well, the thing is, what they're actually doing is they're calling in for South African air support. But that won't arrive immediately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these engineers up as far as I can. We're going to block the road. It won't last, but he's dead. Rockets are valuable. Infantry is valuable. Air defense, let's bring it forward. Let's leave this stuff here. So we have rockets. What can we hit with rockets? Can we hit anything? Okay, let's blow this lead unit up. Okay. That's it. So it's a lot more dynamic. But our lead units have taken a pounding. But I want to take these rockets out. But so let's use 3, 3, 3. Let's use 4, 2, 2. We've got air defence though, and these are helicopters. Aborted. I'm looking forward to some of them being shot down because the report noted some of them were shot down. Ah, quarter strength. Nope. I seem to have mispressed the button. Oh, I think maybe it's because there were no units there. The air power. Let's use the air power there. It's an interesting game. I'll use all of it because I'm lazy at the moment. It's an interesting game because I feel more inclined to try and make it correct, but I don't understand the full order of battle or really what went on. Because I don't want it to be too easy, but they definitely had the advantage. I mean, what this represented was a massive build-up by Soviet forces from Cuba, via Cuba, so they've got lots of new armaments. You know, they didn't manage to. I mean, UNITA didn't hold this position, so you know they have been falling back, and they might have fallen back more aggressively. So it might not be too far out, but in any battle you're going to have losses on both sides, and they've taken some losses there. So that's all the air power. We now want to basically try and move towards this. We've got all of this to take care of. I mean, obviously we're going to try and break through there, and I think, to be quite honest, in the first instance, when the artillery can hit, I think in the first instance we go and push them back. We could do it with one unit. That would be pushing things a bit. It'd probably be a 4 to 1, 5 to 1. I feel like trying my luck. 2 to 1 and a DR. That was trying my luck. Okay, let's get them both onto that. That's right, because they've actually been hit. That's why they're so weak. So this guy should get like a 5 to 1. Yep. And we should be able to get an elimination here or something. Nope, just a DR. DE. It feels quite balanced, but at the same time quite a walkover. Engineers, leave them there. It's interesting. I think the balance, the reduction in units has made a big difference because it feels more mobile. But it hasn't sort of swayed it away from how I felt it should be. I mean, I think the UNITA forces should be a weaker force because they did retreat, but you know, I mean, to what extent is what I'm wondering. Okay, UNITA. Well, there's a nice big stack there. So, but do we want to leave out rockets so exposed? I mean, look at that. Right. So, the rockets are basically dead. We've got rid of a unit, so this shows there is a battle in place. Could have gone for the artillery. That will slow them down a little bit. But here, definitely want to use our special skills and build some earthworks. They're not moving much faster than infantry. Okay. I think I might get rid of some of the air power. I think half of that. Half of everything, you know, I think it will be fine. Or let's just put 3 onto this and see what happens. Okay, that was simple. Let's put 3 onto this because there's an infantry unit. Aborted. Aborted. Let's put 3 onto this stack. And let's put the rest on Mavinga. Routed a unit. Okay, so we should be able to push this guy back. Now there. In earthworks. Let's use some artillery. No, I don't need artillery. Really pushing them back. Routed. I actually sat up last night and I played a game on my what do you call it, Kindle, and to be quite honest, I really didn't like it. I really don't like those sort of games, but it was called War Games of 1939 Free. And I lost the first time, but I won the second time. And I've got it here, but I can't show you. But they're so addictive, and that's what I don't like about them, because it's fairly puerile. And I had these tanks, and I could replenish some strength, and it's a bit like this to some extent. You sort of think, well, puerile is this? But the thing is, this is not going to take me. I've taken 36 minutes, and I've sort of done a fair amount, and it's stimulating certain elements of my brain. But trying to play that thing on the Kindle was just, there was no sense of strategy. I mean, it was really just a case of just trying to hit things. And I couldn't believe it. The cavalry were just so strong. I mean, historically, I always got the impression that cavalry were really weak. And so I was sending my armoured units against the cavalry and losing 4 points of armoured units for every 1. And there were just these little game contrivances in it that just really annoyed me, like these really strong pillboxes and this train gun that was really tough. And it hooked me, because I played it the first time and I sort of didn't do very well, but then I realised I wasn't actually replenishing my troops. I got the hang of it a little bit through, and I started to build troops, but I didn't realise you could just reinforce them, so I was losing all these sort of tank units and wasn't able to replace them. So I got the hang of it and I won. I went on normal level, and to be quite honest, I'm going to delete it because I just can't stand games like that. That really annoys me. And that's why I do Warblog to some extent, because at least it sort of gives you some sort of learning curve. I mean, there was absolutely no sense that I was playing whatever part of the Second World War it was, the German invasion of Poland, I think. They might have got a few names right, but there was no indication of, there was no real sort of sense of, I was possibly considering some of the, I don't want to say decisions, some of the nuances of that campaign and how it might have worked. I mean, for example, the first thing is the game was what you might call balanced. Well, obviously, the invasion of Poland was not a balanced game. Poland were going to lose no matter what. The only thing that you could do if you were to play it properly would just sort of say, how badly can you lose, or how well can you lose? And it's similar here. I mean, obviously we're pushing the UNITA forces back, but to some extent we can also play that same game in the sense that we can say, well, well, we've eliminated that unit. We can sort of say things, we can ask questions, and it's not a proper simulation. I know, I would never really try to even say that, but it is definitely suggesting that it is. We're trying to, within the scope of what we can get, we're trying to I'm just trying to do this. We're trying to sort of grasp some of the sort of concepts of what would have been important in this. And it's things that we can see. We outgunned them. Or the Angolan forces outgunned the UNITA forces. We're also developing a vocabulary. I mean, as it happens, I didn't have any UNITA forces. I mean, it's such a big battle, such a big conflict, and it's always a favourite of mine because it's sort of similar to the Wild Geese film, and that was always one of my favourite films. That part of Africa, I think it was probably more Zaire, or I don't know where it was, but it was always sort of that sort of era. And the Angolan conflict has always interested me slightly, and I just really haven't done anything on it, mainly because there's no book on it. And so that's sort of that. But we're getting the sort of the repeated exposure to the geography of the situation. This is not the first time we've seen Kute Canave. And probably a lot of the battles happened around this area. The toing and froing one side to the other. etc., etc. Understanding the importance of this road. Now, I did actually consider putting in railway lines because I haven't got any railway lines, but it'd be a lot of programming, and I'd have to sort of. It's not so much the programming I have to create the counters, but it's the replication of where it has implications. Would it be just an aesthetic? I mean, I could probably do it as an aesthetic. There are so many things I want to do, and I just don't have time for it, to be quite honest. But I could put a railway line in there, but then you say, well, I want to be able to travel along the railway line, and then it just goes on forever. So, but this was how they sort of got up to here. So it looks as though they're going to get there, but we've pretty much moved everything, and the artillery is lagging behind because it's slow. And that's it. So our advance isn't as rapid as I thought it might be. But now we've got the South African Air Force. Now I deliberately did it on turn 3. Now so much has happened in those first few turns. Now what can they do? So this is what makes the game interesting now, because we've now got the South Africans helping. Now if you read the report, it sort of says that there was no proof. And we're talking more along the lines of the Mavinga area. Dr. Savimbi emphatically denied having either asked for or received South African ground or air support, though he admitted having been given more arms by Pretoria in the past 4 weeks than in the previous 10 years, and that South African medical teams were tending wounded UNITA soldiers in the field. Well, we know that South Africans were helping them, and I put that in there because there is reference to Dr. Zavimbi said the government troops lost 2,300 men killed against 410 killed, and 822 injured on the UNITA side. UNITA also claimed to have brought down 17 aircraft, including 5 Soviet-supplied Mi-25 helicopters, and to have captured or destroyed 151 army trucks. It's a massive, event, and that's why I put so many aircraft in. But 17 aircraft, including 5 Soviet-supplied M25s. So that's why we got that. But I did think, if they brought down 17, there's probably got a lot of air defence, which is what I sort of put in, and maybe I'll put a bit more in. But I'm pretty sure that they had South African support, so that's why I put them in, and I think it balances it up a bit. But what would you do if you had it? Would you go for these artillery units? Or would you go for these frontline units? I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is go for the stacks. There's 2 in that stack. 2 in that stack. There's engineers there. That might be a good stack to go for. I'm going to go 3, 3. Remembering that some of these have been hit. And we don't care about anything other than eliminations. Oh my god. They didn't even have air defense, and they shot down a South Africa, whatever it is, Mirage. Oh, that was absolutely surreal. I was hoping that the Angolan air offensive would be dampened by a few of those helicopters being shot down to reflect the article, because helicopters do get shot down a lot easier. But it didn't seem to really have much effect. Well, let's put a rocket attack on that. And another one. And another one. And they're still all alive. Okay. Can we do some kind of counter-attack here? Engineers. Okay, let's lay some. If we can. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Let's push him into there. See, I was hoping that some of these would get shot down. But no, the South African air, because the aircraft are a lot tougher. So now it's equal. I gave them enough to give them an edge. They were 6 against 5, and now it's 5 against 5. Right, I'm going to put 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 and see what we've got left. The air defense doesn't seem to be doing anything. And let's put 3 into there. And there's the armour. Dear. Okay. Engineers, well, they want to get in there to remove that earthwork next turn. Oh, an exchange. That's a first. So we're up onto this road. Oh, the battle for Luacano, whatever it's called, is on. And eliminated a unit. But we can't move in there. We don't have anything to move in with. And that's it. Well, what can they do? Losing ground here. It would be nice to take these tanks out. Which is what I'm going to try and do. But they 0.8 comes down to 0.8. Quarter strength. 3.8, 2.2, 0.4. They're going to have to split up. No, before I do that, I want to move these rockets at least back. And we're actually doing an attack. And no idea what the odds will be. 2 to 1, and we push them back. So the fighting outside of Luacano is fierce. These need to come back. so tough. Let's go for it. Two to one in an exchange. Heated battles. Wow. It's 57. That is a good game. I'm enjoying this. Look at that, it's just this complete straight line. But I'm going to remove half of all of that and give the South Africans the advantage. So I think I've salvaged something from I think what was a terrible start. Not so much a terrible start gameplay, terrible start in the design. In that there were too many units. I think we've got about the right number of units, and they are sort of slightly more in line with the newspaper article 4,300. About 23 companies, 25 companies. But it looks like a man, doesn't it? How many minutes have we got? It looks like a man with his foot on a football. Oh God, that's so funny. But yeah, I think this is interesting, and I think what happens quite often in these games is you get a natural variance between realistic, which that other game that I played about the invasion of Poland wasn't, and when it's incidentally or accidentally quite well balanced. Well, this shouldn't be balanced. This should be in the favour of the Angolans. But when it falls balance, as it is here to some extent, I'm actually quite happy with that. So I'm actually quite happy with most of the balance there. I still think the advantage is on the Angolans, but when they get rid of all that air support, I think it will be quite a challenging and interesting game. And I say that to some extent because I think when this armour comes in, that's really going to change things. I mean, these are some heavy hitting units. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.